Today we're going to be talking about something that's been building serious momentum in the Resident Evil community lately. And it feels like it's about time. We're talking about the long-rumored Resident Evil Code Veronica remake. Now, if you have been a fan of the series for a while, you already know this is the one game people have been begging Capcom to revisit for many years. And recently, the rumors aren't just whispers anymore, they're starting to kind of feel a little more real. Well, let's break it down. What's actually being said, what's credible, why this remake could be one of the biggest Resident Evil game comebacks ever. First of all, a little context. Resident Evil Code Veronica originally dropped back in Double O's in the Sega Dreamcast. And it wasn't just some random side entry, it was basically Resident Evil 3.5 in everything but name. It followed Claire Redfield after the events of Resident Evil 2, eventually bringing Chris Redfield back into the picture and pushing the story forward in a major way. We're talking full 3D environments for the first time in the series, more cinematic camera work, and a storyline that leaned hard into the weird, gothic, almost theatrical side of the Resident Evil franchise. And yeah, if you've played it, you already know it's got that classic mix of brilliance and some absolute madness. Now here's where things are, or get rather, interesting. For many years, fans assumed Code Veronica would be next in line after the insanely successful remakes of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. But Capcom skipped it, they just jumped straight to Resident Evil 4. And while Resident Evil 4 Remake absolutely delivered, that move left a lot of people wondering what really happened to this game. Well, fast forward to now, and suddenly the conversation's back in a pretty big way. According to multiple reports and insiders, including well-known leakers, a Code Veronica remake is not only in development but could actually be the next Resident Evil remake that we get. And here's a key part. This isn't just some random rumor floating around Reddit, this is coming from someone with a pretty solid track record when it comes to Resident Evil leaks. In fact, there are claims that the remake is being handled by the same director behind Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4 remakes. And if that is true, well, it's without a doubt gonna be huge, because those two games basically set the gold standard for how to do a modern remake right. Now let's talk about timing. A lot of the current speculation points to a 2026 announcement, with a potential release window somewhere in 2027. That sort of lines up pretty well with Capcom's current release pattern. Think about it, they've been alternating between new entries and remakes for many years now. So after something like Resident Evil Requiem, the idea that the next big project is a remake is not a stretch at all. But here's where things get even more interesting and honestly kind of fun. Fans have started spotting what looks like intentional teases in some recent Resident Evil content. In Resident Evil Requiem, for example, players found subtle references like an anagram of Veronica, hidden environmental details, and even characters with the name Veronica showing up in game. Now, are these 100% confirmation? No, but Capcom has a history of doing this kind of thing, dropping little hints before big reveals, so it definitely adds fuel to the fire. And then there's also the development rumors themselves. One of the more interesting claims is that this remake won't just be a one-to-one recreation. Instead, it's supposedly gonna be heavily remixed and expanded, while still keeping all the major locations, enemies, and story beats intact. Which honestly, that's exactly what Code Veronica needs, because let's be real, the original game had some rough edges. The pacing could be all over the place sometimes, difficulty spikes were brutal, and some of the mechanics definitely haven't aged well. But underneath all of that, there's an incredible foundation. You've got one of the most unique settings in the series. We've got Claire and Chris both playing major roles. And you've got a tone that leans way more into psychological horror and gothic weirdness compared to some of the more action-heavy entries. If Capcom takes that and rebuilds it using the Unreal Engine, that could be something special. And It's not just fans saying that, even people connected to the franchise have been vocal about wanting this remake to happen. Leon Kennedy's voice actor, for example, has straight up said that Code Veronica would be one hell of a game if it got the remake treatment. So clearly the demand is there from both the community and the people inside the industry. Now of course, we've got to keep it real for a second. None of this is officially confirmed by Capcom. When it comes to game development, especially something as big as Resident Evil, plans can change. Projects get delayed, things get scrapped, that's just how it goes. Even the leakers themselves have said to take timelines with a grain of salt. But here's the thing. When you look at everything together, the insider reports, the timeline, the hints in recent games, and just the overall direction Capcom has been going in, it starts to feel less like a maybe and more like a when. Honestly, Code Veronica might be the perfect choice right now, because while Resident Evil 4 was a guaranteed hit, Code Veronica is something different. It's not as mainstream, it's not as polished, but that is exactly why it has so much potential. A remake wouldn't just be a visual upgrade, it would be a full-on redemption arc. Imagine modernized combat, reworked boss fights, a smoother progression system, and a story that actually gets the same level of cinematic presentation as the recent remakes. That's not just nostalgia, that's a completely new experience. And if Capcom, well, really is aiming for 2027, that gives them time to go all in, to take what made Code Veronica special and fix what didn't work, to turn it into something that stands alongside Resident Evil 2 Remake as one of the best in the franchise. Anyway, according to multiple reports and insiders, including well-known leakers, a Code Veronica remake is not only in development but could actually be the next Resident Evil remake that we get. Yeah, we're not there yet, but for the first time in a long time, it actually feels like Code Veronica is back on the table. And if these rumors turn out to be true, we could be looking at the best, or maybe one of the biggest chapters in Resident Evil Remake's era. For many years, fans assumed Code Veronica would be next in line after the insanely successful remakes of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. But Capcom skipped it, they just jumped straight to Resident Evil 4. And while Resident Evil 4 Remake absolutely delivered, that move left a lot of people wondering what really happened to this game. Until then, of course, we wait, but let's be honest, this is one rumor that a lot of us are really hoping becomes reality. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think Code Veronica deserves the remake treatment, or should Capcom go for an even more completely different direction? Because either way, the future Resident Evil is looking pretty damn exciting.